With the NFL Draft nearing closer and closer to its arrival, more and more teams are starting to make public announcements on who they're bringing in for top 30 visits. And the Lions just had a massive one yesterday. And we're going to talk about it in this episode, folks, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. It doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Lions fans, and welcome back once again to MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. So here's the thing, folks. We're not going to beat around the bush. We're not going to take a whole lot of time on this because I am on a little bit of a time crunch right now while I'm recording this. But what we're going to talk about today is that the Lions are starting to bring in people more and more for top 30 visits. Now, as we all know, the pre-draft visits are very important to a team's ability to determine how they are going to go about possibly drafting somebody or not drafting somebody. The biggest news so far about this whole thing is that the Lions yesterday on Thursday officially brought in Alabama cornerback Kool-Aid McKinstry for an official top 30 draft visit. Now, why is this important? Why is this big news? Well, it's big news for me because as everybody has already probably known by now, I am very high on Kool-Aid McKinstry. I like the fact that this is a very tough, very gritty kid. I like his pedigree. I've talked about this multiple times before, and I think he's just a perfect fit for the Lions as far as what is still needed to be, added to the defense, but also what he can do for the defense. Now, that's all well and good. But when we're talking about this specific episode, there's a very specific reason why I have the thumbnail the way I do, because people are going to probably be like, David, are you sure that's the right way you want to go about this? It is. The reason why I do this is because if there's one thing I have learned about Brad Holmes and one thing I've learned about Dan Campbell is that to a certain extent, they are creatures of habit. They are going to go with things that they know work, and they are going to go with things that have always worked for them in the past. Only when it stops working are they going to change it up. Because again, as the saying goes, don't reinvent the wheel. Well, here's the thing, folks. The reason why this news is particularly big for me, this news is particularly massive, is because we have to understand some similarities to how the Lions have drafted prospects in the past versus how we're seeing them right now for this year. Let's think about this, folks. Why is Kool-Aid McKinstry such a big name for the Lions? Well, you have to understand how much connection he has had with the Lions to this point. The Lions have literally been with him every single step of the pre-draft process. They were there at the Combine and had a formal Combine interview with him. They went to his pro day to watch him. And as I just said, yesterday, they brought him in for a top 30 visit. All three times that the Lions have been able to actually have some sort of interaction with him where they could talk with him, they could get more information on him, they could see who and what he is, the Lions have continually brought him back. Now, I have said this before about other things, and I'm going to say it here right now. If you are not interested in a player, you are not going to keep bringing them back in to learn more about them. This tells me very clearly that the Lions are interested in Kool-Aid. And when you think about it, he is the only player so far that has had all three of these things happen to him. The formal Combine interview, went to the pro day, and now has had a top 30 visit. He's the only prospect so far, and again, high emphasis on that phrase, so far that the Lions have made a clear, concise effort to be like, hey, we want to keep bringing him back in. We want him to get associated with us, and we want to be associated with him. Now, why is this big news? Well, let's think about this, folks. The Lions have done this in the past. Go back to the 2022 NFL Draft. The Lions specifically did this with Aiden Hutchinson, whom they drafted at number 2 overall. The Lions had formal interviews with him at the Combine in 2022. They went to his pro day in 2022. And they brought in freaking Aiden Hutchinson for a top 30 visit. all three things they did with Aiden Hutchinson, and they went and they drafted Aiden Hutchinson, especially when everybody thought Aiden Hutchinson or Thibodeau was most likely going to be the guy that was going to get drafted at number 2. It was just a matter of, okay, who's going to be available or not. And eventually, once we found out that Hutchinson was not getting drafted number 1 by the Jaguars, we knew it was pretty much a lock-in that, hey, it's going to be Hutchinson. Now, it's not just Hutchinson's past history as far as association with the Lions when he got drafted that I'm particularly going based off of this. You have to think about how the Lions have done this in the past. The Lions have also had several players that they have had association with in the past in the pre-draft visits, and very quite often they will then go on and draft them. Same draft in 2022. Again, I'm going off of information that's a little bit old, so trying to find it all was a little bit hard. But we know that in 2022, the Lions specifically brought in freaking Kirby Joseph for a top 30 visit. They wound up drafting him. You then go to 2023. In 2023, they had visits, they had meetings with all the guys that were in the top four picks that the Lions used, which then became immediate starters. They had meetings with Jack Campbell. They had meetings with freaking Jahmyr Gibbs. They had meetings with Sam Laporta and also with Brian Branch. All of those guys they had meetings with, and all 4 of them the Lions wound up drafting. Now, I'm not trying to say that just because you meet with the Lions that you're going to get drafted by them, because there are a lot of other guys that the Lions met with that they didn't draft. But here's what I do know. Like I said, the more often you meet with a particular team, the more often that you have interaction and an association with team, that definitely increases the odds of it happening. And we have to think about this. What have Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell specifically said? They said that they wanted to add more help to the cornerback room, and they want to add more help to the safety room. Well, getting Kool-Aid is definitely going to check out one of those boxes. It's definitely going to check off one of them boxes. Because if you get Kool-Aid and then you pair him with Carlton Davis, you are now going to have a very formidable cornerback tandem. Because we have to think about this. I've said it before. Kool-Aid has the tools, he has the skill set to be able to work in the NFL. Now, I'm not saying he's going to go out in his very first year and he's going to be lights out. I fully expect that for Kool-Aid, it's probably going to take a year or two before we can really start seeing how well he can perform, because cornerback is one of the hardest positions to transition from the NCAA ranks to the NFL ranks. But I've checked out the stats. I've checked out the numbers. If you go back to the NCAA season last year, Kool-Aid was very good both as a zone cover corner and also as a man cover corner. I have the note right here, so just pardon me. I'm using my phone really quickly here. But if you think about it, last year Kool-Aid's man coverage, stats for passer rating was very, very good, very low. It was at a 49.2. Think about that. We just had a conversation where, and I'm gonna reference you to the video. I'll put it back up at the top. But if you go back to that video, Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell pretty much put it out there. They made it well known that the Lions are trying to run more man coverage schemes into this upcoming year because they want to put more pressure on quarterbacks. They want to be able to blitz more. They want to be able to make things more difficult for opposing offenses. Kool-Aid has one of the lowest, and I mean this, one of the lowest passer ratings for man coverage corner, and having done that while playing at Alabama, a school of that pedigree, that's impressive. But also on top of that, we also know that the Lions have run a lot of zone coverage in the past, and even though they're trying to make the switch to man coverage, you still have to be able to play zone coverage. Well, that's not a problem for Kool-Aid either. His zone coverage passer rating was also low. It was at a 68.1. So think about it, folks. 68.1 passer rating in zone coverage allowed last year at Alabama. A 49.2, again, that was allowed in man coverage as a passer rating last year. So not only can this guy play in zone coverage well, he can play in man coverage well. Then you have to think about the fact that this guy loves to tackle or is able to tackle very well. Again, his career missed tackle percentage, I think for his entire time at Alabama, is a 7.6. 7.6 for a cornerback, that's absolutely impressive. That's wonderful. And again, Alabama, folks, I've said it before, I don't like Alabama, but I respect their program. I have respected what Nick Saban has done with that program as long as he was there. So think about it. Kool-Aid is a perfect fit for what the Lions need because they need more cornerback help. He's a perfect fit schematically because the Lions are trying to run more man coverage, and this guy is great in man coverage. He can also run zone coverage very well. But also he's a perfect fit for the culture and for the mindset and ideology of Dan Campbell's team. This is a gritty, tough kid. Again, you go back to the pro day that I've talked about. This guy went out and performed drills on a Jones fracture in his foot. I'm sorry, most human beings don't do that. But this guy said, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to perform drills, and he performed very well with that drill. Again, I know some people have responded to me after I made that video about the fact that, they don't like the fact he only ran a 4.47 for his 40 time. Think about that though, folks. He ran a 4.47 40 time with a fracture in his foot. Most people, when they have a fracture in their foot, they're barely walking. This guy's going out and he's doing 40-yard sprints. Think about that. Imagine how fast he'll be when that foot is fully healed. But anyway, folks, I just think that what the Lions are doing is they're clearly showing a huge interest in Kool-Aid. So to a certain extent, my title, as far as my thumbnail image, is correct. But as far as I am concerned, I still think the Lions are high on Kool-Aid, and if he is available at 29, or they feel that they might have to trade up a little bit to get him, it would not surprise me at all if the Lions made a move. It sincerely wouldn't. But anyway, I'm going to end the episode really quickly, and I just want to say to you all once again, thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you liked what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage you all to watch the next episode. Also encourage you all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past, forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed, you not had a chance to do so. Again, highly encourage you all to subscribe. It helps the channel out. But also, please make sure you turn on that bell notification icon as well, so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. Again, subscription numbers, they're going up, but we want to make sure you guys keep coming back and you keep jumping into the streams as soon as I have something new to provide. Also encourage y'all, please, to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. The more we can share it, the greater the channel spreads and grows. And with that being said, to everybody, I just want to say thank you all for everything that you do. You guys are an amazing, wonderful, awesome community. I'm so thankful for each and every one of y'all. I hope you all have something that makes you happy. Hope you all have something that makes you smile. And I also hope you enjoyed the content. But with that, I also want to say to everybody, God bless. Hope you all have a great day. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.